Josh McCormack, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good. It's so good to hear your voice again, Paul. I missed you on the last one.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, so disappointing. I wasn't available to jump in. I know Chris stepped up.
Did. It was
Sure
the best interview we had.
Yeah,
Josh,
absolutely
Josh,
was.
back me up on this,
Right.
man. Come on.
Don't leave me hanging. Josh, we got a chance to talk to you about going to King of the Streets, and at the time I remember listening back to the interview, there was a lot of reflection on what 2020 looked like and what the changes were going to be going into 2021. And obviously a lot of our listeners have been following your YouTube channel. Can you just give us like a quick recap of kind of what last year looked like, and then give us the rundown, man. We all know you crushed it. You came home with the win for the all-truck challenge, but walk us through it. What was it like?
So last year was pretty rough. We just kind of had the whole year was just band-aiding this one engine that we had, and we went into it with a strategy we thought would do pretty well. We didn't think we were going to drag race the best compared to some of those guys. And we cracked the piston on day one. We in-framed it the night of day one. We were able to get a qualifying pass and then an elimination round pass. Obviously, we lost to David Petrick, but whatever, it's fine. So we in-framed it. We did the street drive. We broke an injection line. So that took us out of the street drive. We still didn't care. And then we hit it on the dyno, and the dyno we tried to make a big number because at that point, we knew we weren't even, remotely close on points. So we wanted to try and salvage it, and ended up exploding the engine. And then Sunday, I got a good sleep, and we just kind of helped whoever needed parts at that point. We just kind of gave them off my truck and kind of enjoyed the weekend. And then
went from competitor to donor overnight, huh?
Yeah, insult to injury on the way home, coming down Eisenhower Pass. I lost the engine connecting rod bolt broke on my tow truck and sent a rod out the side of the block. So it was just everything I owned at that point was broken, including my bank account.
Fuck 2020.
So it was pretty rough.
Dude, my dignity at that point would have been broken too.
Yeah.
Shit.
Going into this year, it was like I'm older now than I was then, and I just kind of, after watching the competition, I thought I understood what was the right plan, and then after competing in there, I realized that was not the right plan. So this year, we just went into it a little bit smarter, and it helped. Sarah did make a rule change with you could run heads up or bracket race, and we just went into it a lot smarter this year. We had a fresh engine that was built extremely well. Actually, if they watch my YouTube channel, you can watch the whole engine go together. We built that one myself. Had industrial injection and precision diesel machine, hooked it up on the machine work. They were able to get the block done for me in 3 days. So that was a huge thank you to them, and I appreciate it. Price was a little steep though, so if they ever want room to improve, that would be it right there. But
guy gets his block done in 3 days.
Shameless plug.
And it's just seriously, I want it cheaper next time though.
Yeah, no, I honestly, that it was fair. I just, when Tyler told me, I chuckled a little bit, but yeah. So we built this engine, and it was full of goodies. We've been teaming up a lot more with Evan over at Diamond. He got us several pistons, pins. Austin over at Wagler has always, helped us out, and he got us a set of rods. And the block actually came from somebody on Facebook. I bought it and had it shipped here, and then power bore sleeves. So we built a 6.4 liter Cummins, and I feel like it's the strongest way to build a 6.4. So there's many different ways to cut that cake, but we chose the 6.7 crankshaft with a stock length rod. And then we sleeved it down from 4.210 to 4.125. So 4 1/8, it leaves you with a 6.4 liter compression. And then we had, cold cams, tappets, one of the power driven diesel heads. And it had a single 14 mil extra G, which still to this day, that's one of my favorite induction pumps. It's super capable. We definitely backed up our 2K number again with it on a single 14. We had Dynamite Diesel came through clutch. They built us a set of injectors in like 3 days. So Lenny, Skyler, Matt, Chris, all those guys over there always take care of us. And then it really, Meyer, one of the guys I work with here, really probably one of my best friends, built us a trans. Some of the things that we try like in our own trucks don't always work out the best. So we kind of play around with it. But Meyer built the tranny for me because I was building the engine at the time. And then the turbos, it was a forced inductions 480 96 turbine with a 115 housing and a GT55 106 millimeter Garrett that Tyler Kipp over at Industrial got us set up with. And then I built those compounds. It's got a single wastegate off a Speed T4 manifold. And that was pretty much the setup that we had. I mean, everything, this was a cool year for me. This was the first truck I'd ever tuned by myself. So obviously, huge thank you to a couple people that want to remain nameless because I couldn't have gotten there by myself. But this truck we did tune ourselves, so it was kind of cool. Like we built the engine, we built the trans, we built the turbo setup, and then we ultimately tuned it. We got it all together. We dyno tested it here at the shop. We street drove it here in Utah, and we kind of did some rips on it, and everything checked out good. Lash didn't move around. Everything worked really well. So we loaded it up on the trailer and set out on a 32-hour drive to Ohio, which, I mean, it goes quick, I guess, when you're nervous. And we got there Thursday. Yeah, got there Thursday and unloaded, kind of got to hang out with everybody. I always enjoy meeting with Sarah and Matt Chapman, the guys that run this event. They're such great people, and all their crew is incredible. They're always really good. And, yeah, I can't say enough good about them in the event. And then we got Gordon out there, and basically we rented a tent. So it was me, Gordon, David, and then my boss, one of the owners of Power Driven, came out with his daily driver truck too. And we just kind of had this tent of people, and it's always like a family reunion out there with them because we do like UCC and King of the Street or All Truck Challenge with them all the time. And it's always fun.
That's awesome.
And we just talked strategy. So we went into this event just kind of trying to play it more safe than trying to shoot for the moon on everything. It's really, that was the plan. We wanted to take the best that we could make ourselves and see how it stacked up on the other side of the country.
So a couple things here, Josh. Let's backtrack just a tad and let's talk about your 2021 year. Okay, so in prior years of competing, you had an 05 truck. There was a lot of stuff that you did getting that truck prepared for UCC 2021. Things didn't shape up the way that you were hoping for. And then after that, the 06 truck that you ended up competing in, or 07 truck, whatever, your Silver Crew Cab, you started making a lot of strides in that truck. You know, you were doing stock appearing turbos on the dyno. You were making some crazy power there, doing different compound setups, different single turbo setups. And the truck was just staying together, taking the abuse, and you weren't shelling engines, right? The truck wasn't completely burning up. The truck was staying together. Do you think that over the course of 2021 and having the good luck, I'll call it luck, with the Silver Crew Cab, did that give you more confidence going into this event?
I mean, in all reality, after 2020 King of the Street and everything I owned at that point was broken, I was pretty much ready to like not do this anymore. And then I started that YouTube channel, and that silver truck, I mean, I got to experience stock power, 600, 700, 800, all the way up to 2,000 with it. And it definitely just kind of rekindled the spirit that I think I had lost after getting my stuff pushed in for the past couple of years.
So politely worded.
But yeah, I mean, how else do you word it? Like, yeah. I don't ever try to hide the things that happen or fail on stuff. And like, we had been taking L's for quite a while. So yeah, I think we learned a lot over it. I certainly learned a lot more about nitrous throughout it, how to keep turbo setups happy. We tried some different stuff with engine builds, some stuff that people hadn't tried. Like, I don't want to say anything inaccurate, but I believe with the 19 pistons that we had in that old engine, I don't think anybody has made 2,000 horse with those yet. So it was kind of cool to try that out. And I remember opening the box and the wrist pins weren't the same size as everything else I'd ever done in my entire life. And I was like, uh-oh. So we had to kind of make a lot of stuff work, but it was just cool. I mean, when you try to get back up on the horse and there's all the companies that were right there with you when you fell the first time that are right back there to pick you back up, it keeps you going good. And yeah, we had a great year. We went to Montana, won I think 3 dyno classes and came in second in the sled pull. Then we went to Idaho and won 3 classes again, and it was all good. And then I had a lot of family stuff going on in the background, so I kind of didn't do a ton in like the late summer. And then for us, like our season ends with All Truck Challenge, so I think just having good success and learning and kind of just figuring it out on my own. Like, not that people don't give good advice or anything like that, but if you get advice from X, Y, Z, sometimes it doesn't all jive. Sometimes, you just got to kind of figure it out. And I feel like that's really what my team and I did the whole year, is we just figured out what worked, what didn't work, and we just kept moving on.
I love that, because I saw something here where, like you said, you guys had the challenges, and it does definitely get easy to get to that quitting point of like, you know what, I'm going to just drive a gas burner daily. Fuck this. Like,
well, he had no choice. Everything was broken.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We've seen this before where it's hard to get back into it, but you got back into it, and I was interested to hear you say you decided to go conservative this year. What's the difference? Like, if we're talking about like a day one where I believe you guys did heads up racing or bracket racing on day one, you were at the strip, right?
Yeah. So for conservative, like, you had a bracket, and I thought for sure Sarah was going to run like a 7:35 bracket. Like everybody had to do that. Well, no, you just picked your dial-in time. I chose a 8.28. So super slow.
Super slow for what your truck is. Yeah.
But we made it through one round of elimination, and then I caught a red light against Robbie Garcia. But it was like one of those things, like in my head, I'm like, yeah. And we've had meetings after, or not meetings, but group chats and stuff. And I do think that the drag race portion really changed a lot of people's strategies. And I talked to some of the competitors after the event had settled, and they were like, you kind of picked at first everyone thought we were just like stupid and we were scared, but really it was like, if I don't have to beat on this truck very hard to make it go down the drag strip, I'm not going to beat on this truck very hard. Like, it doesn't matter to me, like, that's fine. Your truck's faster. That's cool. But like, I made it through one round of elimination, and it's all about, the average points throughout the event. And I don't think I would have changed it for anything. Now, the reason why we didn't do very good in the eliminations is the truck was very inconsistent at that power level, because you're not leaving very hard. So if you roll on the throttle too hard and you snuff the chargers, like it's not always the best either. So it was the struggle, like I talked about. The hardest thing for us was getting the drag race done. Because I knew it would be really hard to slow down that truck to run a bracket.
At the end of the day, it's about accumulating points and preserving that truck another day. We're going to get into some of the other, questions here with the way the events were kind of ran through or whatever. So day one, bracket racing, we get through that. What did day 2 look like? Like what did that day in general look like, and what was the thought process for that?
So day 1 ended with downpour. So Sarah told us before we left, she's like, hey, it's going to be a street drive first thing in the morning. So we pulled the radials off, put the street tires on, and that was it. Or no, actually, I did take the truck. I left the event to go put fuel in it. And so we drove it out there, put some fuel in it, drove back, got up for the street drive. I love sled pulling, so I wanted to be as close to 9,000 pounds as I possibly could. And we weighed 9,050 pounds. So I had myself, I had Meyer, I had Tessa, and I had Tyson. I figured it was easier to put a bunch of people in there versus a bunch of weight that I'd have to take out. So we loaded the truck up and we hit the street drive, and we had our own little kind of small group. It was me, Gordon, David, Todd, and then there was a couple of other stragglers. I couldn't really tell who was in our group, and then Justin Duffy joined our little group. And we did our 100-mile street drive, and honestly, it was just fun. Like, we had the radio on. I personally had my seat heater on because I enjoy some first world comforts. And we did the street drive, and it was totally different this year. Like, one of the reasons why we played it more conservative is we ran a 5.9 rail on the engine. We didn't run a 6.7 rail. 6.7 rails are great. I think at higher power levels, they definitely inject or get more fuel to the injector. There's no doubt there. But for that challenge, when you have these big CP3 pumps, I tend to break a lot of lines. Now, maybe I just suck at installing them or what, but I've never had good luck with a 6.7 rail lasting on the street. So that was one of the ways we played it conservative. We put a 5.9 rail on it. I went through the whole street drive. Wasn't nervous at all. Actually, I was nervous, but for other reasons. And, we got our street drive done, and I felt great. Then the next event was sled pull. So my favorite event, we got all the stuff bolted on, got the truck locked out, full weight, duals on the rear. And then because Sarah runs a 20-inch hitch height, when you jack them up that high and you run a hidden hitch behind the license plate, most off-the-shelf pulling hitches don't fit. So pedal to the metal, Andy over there made us a 16-inch drop hitch.
Oh, wow.
For the event. So if I haven't done the YouTube video yet, but maybe it'll be up by the time you guys get this broadcasted. But huge thank you to him. He UPS lost half of it. It fell out of the box, and he actually had a good customer at his gym bring it down and hand deliver me the part that fell out. So we got that in there. We go through sled pull tech, everything's good. I get set for my first hook, kind of read the track, and everything was going good. The engine hit like 6,250 RPM, and I was like, crap.
Holy
I grabbed overdrive. And this is probably in the first 100 feet. Grabbed overdrive, and as soon as I hit overdrive, you heard this big boom and a bunch of white smoke, and everybody's like, oh, the turbo blew. And in my head, I'm like, dude, it's a GT55. Like, unless somebody shot it from the sidelines, there's no way we just hurt this turbo. So I popped the hood, the boot's blown. I'm like, whatever, no problem. He's like, oh, do you want to tug it off the track? And I was like, for the love of God, please do not embarrass me any more than I've already embarrassed myself for the last 3 years. I will drive this off the track. So we ended up with like a 200-foot pole, and we get it back to the pit. We're changing the boot. We get the boot changed. We go to start the truck, chuckle and start. And I'm like, oh my God, like what happened? We look, when the boot blew, it ripped the battery ground cable out of the terminal end on the block. So we get that fixed. We get into the lanes. And I'm like, all right, I know what I'm going to do. I looked at the tune-up. We made a couple of rev limiter changes. And I hooked it back to the sled, and we were gone. I went down the track in third gear, locked up with 210 or 110 jets of nitrous on it. And that thing went 385 feet. I think the only guy that beat us that night was Bubby Payne. He went 388. So we were right there at the end of the field. And it felt so good. Like, honestly, I don't remember if I teared up or not, but I know that was the first time sled pulling we'd ever actually done something cool with that setup that I've had for probably 3 years now. So it felt fan freaking tastic to actually sled pull well. And we ended up with like 490 points from that. And I went into that night, Gordon had an engine that got too hot and lost compression. So we're trying to deal with that. And that's kind of how that night ended. We pulled Gordon's engine out, and we planned on putting my spare engine in, and we got to talking the 500 points that he'd lose. And at this point, like, I can usually push through a lot of stuff. I was exhausted. And so was pretty much everyone that could help us do it. And I looked at Gordon and I was like, hey, well, make sure your truck runs and puts on the trailer. But I was like, I don't think we can finish. So unfortunately, Gordon was kind of out, and I feel bad about it. I really do. I think somebody would have gotten hurt if we would have kept working at the rate of like how tired we were.
Yeah.
So we rolled into the next day, dirt drags. All we had to do was we took the rear duals off. So we ran a single rear wheel dually tire. It looked really kind of stupid, actually, if you see it in pictures. But we took the lockouts out and went to the dirt drag. We did 2 qualifying passes. I ended up as the number 4 qualifier. I believe Ben Francis was faster. Justin Duffy and Chris Patterson were all ahead of us. But it wasn't that much of a time difference. Like, we were actually all pretty tight. And I don't know what it is about dirt drags, but I usually do good on them. Like, it's not something I practice. I've done it 3 times, and I've ended up winning all 3 times. So I don't know. But we went through the elimination bracket. I had a first round bye. The second round, I drew David Petrick, and he returned the favor from 2020. He was kind of broke. His converter had locked up on him. So we both kind of putts down there, and being the total a-hole that David usually is, he kind of blipped the throttle, and I thought for a second maybe he had lied to me this whole time. So then I kind of pedaled it a little bit harder. I was like, no, not today. And then our next round, we had Tim Mahoney, and Tim and I both left like bats out of hell. And I went across the finish line probably at like a 30-degree angle, and I could not stop. I actually ended up going down the hill into the – there wasn't any water there, but it used
this
to be
year.
like a pond.
Yeah, that's what Tim was saying. Yep.
Yeah, and so we got that win. Then we go back up, and I drew, I believe it was Brad Daniel in a blue 6.4 Power Stroke, and I was sleeping on the light. Luckily for me, his wastegates like blew open, so we were able to get around him. That was pretty awesome. Not gonna lie, I thought we lost for sure, and I almost pedaled it, and I was like, you know what? I didn't come this far to not at least finish it. So luckily for me, I floored it, and we were able to get around him. And then I know I'm gonna forget around for sure, but then in the finals we had Joey Adelman, Duramax, and I cut the best tree I had all weekend. And we were able to get around him to get the win for the dirt track. So we got the 500 points there, and it felt really good. And I woke up Saturday morning in like 8th or Sunday morning in like 9th place. But then 2 trucks ahead of me were broken, so I was in 7th. We left the dirt drags, and I was in 1st place by 20 points.
Oh my God.
So I was like, holy crap. Like, yeah, exactly. You know, you're like, dang, dude, you know. So then we go on the dyno, and the dyno was you went in order that you got eliminated in the dirt drag. And my YouTube channel actually sponsored the dyno for this event. And I told Sarah, I was like, yeah, I'd really just like to be last. Like, I kind of need to know what I want to make. And not only that, I like procrastinating till the end. And I honestly thought Chris Patterson was 30 points behind us in 2nd place. Or no, so it was Chris. I had a 20-point lead over Justin Duffy and McGowan, and then I had a 30-point lead over Chris Patterson. And I am not smack talking any competitor, but the Cummins tends to do really well on the dyno. So Justin Duffy's setup, I felt like wasn't going to be a 2,000 horse truck. I mean, he still did fantastic at 1,700, and that is nothing to be ashamed of. But like in my head, I'm like, Chris Patterson can make up some huge ground on this dyno. So I watched everyone compete, and I don't think anybody broke, and everybody was putting up great numbers. I know, like, Tiffany did, like, 1,000 horse on a stock bottom end. I know Todd did, like, 1,400, and Justin Duffy did, like, 1,700. Brad Daniel did, like, 1,200 with a hurt trans. So it was, like, really cool. Everybody was doing great. And then they had the last 3 trucks. So it was David Petrick, then Chris Patterson, and then me. So at this point, Ben Francis, who also had a pretty good weekend, he had a tough break on the sled pull, or else I think he would have been right up there with us in the top 3. He did 2163, so he was in 1st. And then Steve Giordano did 2033 or 23, somewhere in that range, which huge congrats to him too. I know he's been searching for that number for a while. And then I'm like, okay, so I have to be in 3rd place on the dyno. So right now I needed like 2,000 horse to do it. And then David Petrick goes up there with the Hurt Trans. He only does, I think, 17 or 1800. So I'm like, okay, this is still doable. Then Chris Patterson and his just big nut swinging energy, right? Goes up there, tune 3, 2,400 and something horsepower. And I'm like, good God. So I'm looking at the tune up in the laptop and had some help getting it dialed in, and we were confident. And then somebody's like, oh, that was only tune 3. I was like, get out of town. Then he clicks tune 5. And I mean, in my mind, first guy to ever do 3,000 horsepower on chassis now. I think he did like 3,089. And congratulations to him again. Like, I stopped after my dyno pull, shook his hand, just like, congrats, dude. He's been working on that forever. And he's a lot like me, a lot of self-built stuff. So I know it really meant the world to him. And it's quite unfortunate how it was received on the internet. But at the end of the day, he's got the dyno sheet, and he did it. Congrats to him and his team. But he smacks that number, and I'm like, okay, so Chris is in first place with no one touching him at 3,000 plus horsepower. Ben Francis is at 2183 or 63, and Steve Giordano's at 2,030 or something like there. So I'm like, okay, I have to be in third. I got to make like 2,050 horsepower. So I get strapped down the dyno, and Rob, the dyno owner, is like, I was like, hey, you remember me? He's like, yeah, you're the guy that like exploded last year. And I was like, well, same thing could happen. Let's make sure everybody's back. Everybody backed up, and the Smoke and Speed crew were great. The three, me, David, and Chris, like, we were kind of all in the same boat. Like, we're not going to dyno if people are standing too close. Like, we don't need a repeat of UCC.
Yeah.
So they got everybody back, and I had everything I had loaded up in it, and we just had a more conservative nitrous setup than normal. We had a 99 jet, or maybe it was an 88 or 99, and a 136. Because remember, I said before we took nitrous off, downsized the solenoid. So really the 136 was only like a 125, but we only had 2 kits of nitrous on the truck. I get it loaded up, smack the 2 kits, the rollers calmed down, and it was 21, 23. And I remember like smiling a little bit, and then Sarah walks over, and Sarah and Matt, and I was like, okay, can we just double check the points real quick? Make sure that like I got it, like, because if not, I'm gonna load in this other tune that was even more dangerous, and I will try it again. But I was like, I didn't know if I had to beat Ben or if I was good in third. They ran the numbers. We verified that our team had won first place. Get unstrapped off the dyno, drove over, congratulated Chris, and then I'm not gonna lie, I drove over and I called my wife and told her the news. And I kind of just sat in my truck for about 5 minutes, and it just felt crazy to me that we had won. Like, I didn't feel like we did anything spectacular that whole weekend other than we were just consistent. And I know everyone said it, but like, that's all we did. Like, we had 460 points in the drag race. We had 330 on the first sled pull, 490 on the second sled pull, 1,000 on the street drive, 470 on dirt drag, qualifying 500 on dirt drag, 480 on the dyno. Like, we only won one event, and we were just consistently good. And everyone had some rough breaks. I know David hurt the trans twice. Chris broke axles. Todd destroyed his case. Tiffany broke an output shaft, and there was just breakage everywhere. And we blew that boot that really killed us in the sled pull. But, I think Ben had some tranny troubles too. Like, everyone had their problems. It was just how you dealt with them and how fast you could get them fixed. And if you could even get them fixed, and we came out on top, and it felt really good to just finally win. You know what I mean?
I think,
That's so cool.
as you're going through this whole, weekend experience, in my head, as you're telling us this, every day was a success. Every day was an obstacle that you were able to overcome, because in years past, you've had these objectives that you weren't able to, complete. What do you think about the dyno event in the sense of that being the last event in this competition, where last year it wasn't necessarily the case? Do you think that was kind of a saving grace for a lot of guys, and that changed the strategy, including yours?
I don't honestly, like, I don't want to sound like arrogant, but it really didn't change our strategy. The only thing it did change is I put about another 200 horse in the truck. But I wasn't worried because it was the last event. So I guess it kind of changed it a little bit, but like we kind of stuck to our plan the whole weekend. I think if Sarah did it again, I think the dyno being last was fine. I think the sled pull really kind of shook things up. I think the sled pull being where it was, that broke more trucks than anything else. And I think like some of the guys, I don't know, man, it was almost kind of like a mind game, because I remember after my first pull, I was like really down in the dumps, and I was like, you know what, let's just kick it. Let's just kill it on the second one. But some guys just didn't have good luck. And I almost wonder if that kind of like carried into the dirt drag, or they broke on the sled pull. So they were up all night and that hurt them in dirt drag. So I really don't think it mattered much, because nobody broke on the dyno. At least to my knowledge, I don't think a single truck broke. So again, I don't know if it would have stacked up differently, but for us, it didn't seem to really matter that much.
You know, it's interesting where people have been breaking from year to year. If you look over like what's been the most detrimental, 2 years ago, the street drive took out more people than the dirt drags. Took out more people than sled pulls, to be honest with you. I think now guys are looking at their trucks, and like you had mentioned, like making some small but custom modifications for the street drive.
Subtle.
It's not as easy as just swapping tires if your truck can't handle driving 65 miles an hour for 100 miles consistently.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't think we lost a truck in the street drive this year. I think everyone finished.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I think the competition level has changed quite a bit, just versus spectating versus competing last year versus this year. Like, you had these like silent stalkers like hanging around. Like, a prime example of that is like Tim's truck or my boss's truck. They weren't like superstar trucks, but they were that 1,000 to 1,400 horsepower that just kind of 450, you know, the whole weekend long. Like Tim, I think, was in second place or third place going into the dirt drags. Like, and it again, the truck that won, I didn't win the dyno. Now, granted, I think the dyno threshold has been moved quite a bit by that Texas team, but like, I mean, a year ago, I would have been in second on the dyno. The year before that, I would have been in first on the dyno with the number I had. But it was definitely interesting to see all the different teams, and it was cool. Like, we had this big tent, and we were up more by the sled pull cash days. That's kind of where David and I like to be, because we have a lot of friends that are sled pullers and stuff. And David's crew always just, like, all of them, Peabody, you got Casey, you got Steve Burton, and Dusty, Johnny, like all these guys that just, we grabbed this area, and we had about 100 feet to park trucks to the gate, and all these guys like campers and pole trucks and all these people just showed up, and it was like a huge just get together, and it was a lot of fun. Like, I think my favorite part of the competition, and not to be corny, was Saturday night. We were in the tent, and like Justin Duffy's team was there, and we had just a bunch of competitors there, and then my whole crew and David's crew, we brought like this fire pit inside the tent, and just everyone was having such a good time. And I remember like going over to Shad and just being like, this is what it's really all about, like just having all those people together. It was awesome.
Absolutely. That culture matters.
Yeah.
And one thing that I wonder about the culture is at this event compared to maybe some of the others throughout the year, is that we have a pretty good mix between shop owners, enthusiasts, high horsepower, low horsepower. I mean, we interviewed two guys that were knowing that they were showing up with 500 horsepower trucks.
Right.
How do you feel about them being in the competition? Do you feel like this is the place, this is the right competition? Should there be a bracket for the lower horsepower guys so that they're actually competing? How do you see this?
I mean, personally, like, if you think you have what it takes and you're willing to do the drive to get there, and you have whatever, like, absolutely. Like, I know Jack Cordero, I might be saying his last name wrong, but Jack Cordero brought a very mild Duramax. It still had like forces on it. It was a beautiful, I remember telling him, I was like, dude, that's a beautiful truck, you know? And Absolutely. I mean, it's the all truck challenge, not the how much do you want to spend challenge, not the 2,000 horsepower challenge, not the third gen Ram challenge. Like there, there's always room for people. And I mean, I listen to all of the podcasts on the way out there, and these people are nervous and that, and I get it. Like I got nervous going there, and all these people that said like me or David or Ben and stuff being in the top three, like that's a little bit. It's almost weird because like on the other side of it, they're like, oh, it'll be a cakewalk for these guys. And on the other side of it, I'm like, damn, like all these people expect me to perform really well. Like I try to bring my A game, but I don't see why they can't. I'm all for it. I mean, I'd love to see 60 trucks next year. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. The more the merrier. And I always try to. I mean, one of the big things that we always do is we bring a ton of extra parts. And I know for like we helped a few teams that could have beat us. Like, we just wanted to make sure everyone had a good weekend. Like that was what this was all about. Like last year was miserable. This year we wanted the tent, and we got a nicer hotel, and we got all the nice food, and Gordon cooked for us. And it was just all about like the whole experience being positive for everyone.
I don't like this guy being out here on vacation and winning. You don't get to have fun and win. We know how this shit works.
John,
I mean, full disclosure, Paul, I checked my oil twice.
For the
I
record.
checked my transmission line pressure a couple times. I checked my torque converter bolts, and I changed tires. And I fixed the intercooler boot and that battery positive.
That doesn't sound like a vacation to me, Paul.
I did not. I mean, Friday night, I guess I helped David quite a bit. So Meyer got David's tranny kind of done, and then I walked in and finished it so Meyer could fix Todd's transmission. So, like, in our team, like, there was still a lot of work to be done. It wasn't my truck this time, which was extremely strange. Yeah.
So what does this look like for years to come? You definitely came to, All Truck Challenge 2021 with vengeance, right? And you were able to check a lot of boxes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You stayed together. You won the event. Hats off to you. Do you do this again next year? What's 2022 look like?
Without a doubt.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Are you also going to try UCC again next year?
I mean, yeah, probably. I don't. I mean, we'll see how the cards stack up. But I mean, I'd love to go to UCC. I know it'd be a lot of fun. Well, I don't know fun, but I mean, now that I've won All Truck Challenge, you kind of are looking at it like, absolutely, we're going to come back and try to defend the title, But I certainly am looking forward to Ultimate Call Out Challenge, and I think this weekend was good for not only myself and my family, but also my team. Just seeing like, hey, we can do this. Sometimes it doesn't always go our way, but like, we do have what it takes to. I mean, in my opinion, All Truck Challenge is like the second hardest competition. And honestly, it's in some ways harder than UCC, because UCC, you run one drag strip pass. I mean, if everything goes right for UCC, you start the truck 3 times. One drag strip pass, one sled pull rip, one dyno rip. And in All Truck Challenge, you're going rounds and dirt dragging, bracket racing, heads up racing, the street drive. So they're both different in different ways. I definitely have had a lot rougher time with King of the Street All Truck Challenge than I did at UCC, because UCC I can swap an engine and not lose points. And we're working on asphalt pits and not grass and mulch and all this stuff. Like, there's so many things that change the adversity of each competition. Like, All Truck Challenge is like cold as balls, and UCC was like, I was dumping water in my fire suit so I didn't overheat. So they're both different. We're definitely not going to put a cage in the 07 to go to All Truck Challenge. I think we're just going to, we got a little surprise coming up, and you guys will just have to wait. But we got something for UCC, and I think we can do really well as long as we just not give up.
Cool.
I love that. That's so cool, man. Josh, it's always such a pleasure to have you on the show, and I know Chris and I both want to say congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you,
I mean,
guys.
I can't say enough, man. Following you, especially with your YouTube stuff, seeing all the viral videos of turbo explosions and fires and everything else. it's got to be tough at the end of 2020 to pick yourself up the way you do and, have that comeback in 2021. So, well deserved, man.
Yeah. I mean, like, shouldn't do it without a lot of people. Obviously, like, my wife puts up with all the away time and the money side of stuff, and my kids obviously don't always get all the dad time that they probably deserve. And I got Meyer and Shad that always helped me. Jeremy Little helped me a lot this year too. Tessa came with us, and a lot of the guys, like Shad doesn't even work at Power Driven anymore. He took his own personal vacation to come out there, and Meyer and Tessa took vacation to come out there, and then my bosses for giving me the time, extra vacation to go out there. And then just all the companies, man, like Gordon, GL Tuning, like obviously he can't do everything right now, but he's still like one of my best friends and a good mentor of mine. I've been with him for years. DDP was great. They've been solid for me. I think I've been with them 6 or 7 years now. Fluid Damper, always making sure taken care of. Wagler, Armor Inc., Industrial was really helpful, especially this year, getting us some of the parts that we needed on a quick turnaround time. Trevor Manton stuff's great over at Manton Push Rods. Armor Inc., again, like Donovan and Lenny, I've always really looked up to those guys, and I try to emulate what they've done for the industry. Pedal to the Metal Hitches was fantastic. I couldn't have done the hitch height without Andy, so huge thank you to him. And Air Dog CJ's always got us, ready to go. And just a lot of good people around me. It's always good to have the win, and it felt pretty damn good this year for sure.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Josh, thank you so much for joining our listeners on the show. Listeners, jump over to Josh's YouTube channel. Check it out. We'll have a link in the description of today's show. Stick around. We got more Diesel Performance Podcast coming at you right after a word from our sponsors.
Upgrade the factory transmission oil cooler in your truck with the XDP Extra Cool Direct Fit Transmission Oil Cooler. The XDP Extra Cool Direct Fit Transmission Oil Coolers provide you with an upgraded bolt-on design. Each transmission cooler is built with a high-efficiency core to maximize cooling. Designed as a direct fit replacement, this transmission cooler comes ready to install with all the brackets, hardware, and accessories needed for installation. To find out more about the XDP Extra Cool Direct Fit Transmission Oil Coolers, check out xdp.com or find a local dealer near you.
What is Worley Custom Fab's thermostat bypass valve, and why is it an important upgrade for your 2017 to 2019 L5P Duramax? 2017 to 2019 L5P Duramax trucks feature a unique thermostat assembly for the Allison transmission, which allows fluid to bypass the auxiliary cooler and use engine heat in the radiator coolant to reach ideal operating temps more quickly in cold weather. When the desired temperature is reached, the thermostat is supposed to open and allow fluid to flow forward into the auxiliary cooler, which helps maintain transmission fluid temperatures at a safe level. Now the issue. This thermostat is prone to get stuck closed, so when the fluid gets hot and reaches the point that it needs to be cooled via the auxiliary cooler, the fluid is instead bypassed by the closed thermostat and returned to the transmission uncooled. Hotter fluid breaks down quicker, which leads to poor fluid performance and potentially premature damage and shortened transmission life. If you tow with your truck or live in a warm climate, this bypass plug is a must. Whether your truck is a daily driver, work truck, tow rig, or competition race truck, this is an issue that plagues all 17 to 19 L5Ps. When running one of WC Fab's shop trucks at the drag strip, they noticed temperatures reaching the unsafe zone. After some investigation, they found the auxiliary cooler up front was cool to the touch. The hot fluid was not making its way to the cooler. Upon further research, they found that even factory stock trucks were experiencing the same issue. With this discovery, the thermostat bypass plug was born. The CAD-designed, CNC-machined, anodized billet aluminum bypass plug requires a simple 15-minute installation. WC Fab has been building high-performance transmissions for the L5P platform for many years now, and immediately started including this made-in-the-USA piece with every transmission that they build. Tested in-house on both their shop trucks and customer trucks, the transmission cooler thermostat bypass plug for 2017 to 2019 L5P Duramax trucks can drop the fluid temperature from 15 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit by reducing fluid flow restriction to the trans cooler. The Exergy Performance Fuel System Saver works. If you have a CP4 equipped fuel pump, which is commonly found on the 2011 to 2016 LML Duramax, and also the early 6.7 liter Ford Power Stroke engine, they're known for failure, period. Now, most of the time, if you put a lift pump on the truck, you'll prevent a lot of the potential failures. If you do regular maintenance, you can help prevent the potential failures. But at the end of the day, there's still a risk that no matter what you do, that CP4 could fail. And when they fail, they have a track record for sending all of the metal shavings downstream. So you end up needing a whole new fuel system, new lines, new injectors, new tubes, new everything. That could be very expensive. Even if you're under warranty or you find a bundle package for a great price, there's still a lot of labor that goes into that job. The fuel system saver increases the amount of protection post CP4. So it's not going to stop your CP4 from failing. What it's going to do is that, God forbid, the CP4 gives up and it starts to send metal debris through the truck. It's going to stop it before it hits the rest of your fuel system. And that's why they call it the fuel system saver. If you have a CP4 pump on your truck, you absolutely need to give DuramaxTuner.com a call today and get yourself a fuel system saver. Guys, we're here with our favorite shop tech, our super tech, Jeremy Garnett. Jeremy, how the hell are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, man. Thanks for asking. Jeremy, you've had this Hummer with the Duramax conversion in the shop all summer.
Yeah, going on a few months now.
Now, obviously, it's the COVID times. We all know about parts back orders and,
Yes.
and some different kind of fun things. We've talked about the brake situation you guys had on it, working through all of that. But I see it looking more and more complete now.
Yeah, we'll dive into it more, with the next coming weeks and stuff like that. But I just wanted to kind of give everybody a heads up of where I'm at and what we've been doing to it a little bit. So,
Yeah, man. Remind our listeners, give us a rundown of the project.
the project is a 2005 H1 Hummer. It's a civilian use one, so it's got a really nice interior, big tires. Customer purchased it a couple years ago, and he does not like the 6.5 that was in it. Won't get out of its own way. In the 05 6.5, it is a turbocharged motor.
Okay.
Non-intercooled, just straight.
Non-intercooled, turbocharged, 6.5.
Yeah.
Giant turd.
Yeah, whopping 180 horse. I mean, not a lot of fun.
So that truck came in, it was running when it came in, wasn't it?
Yes, we towed it here because it has a couple front end issues on it that we're doing with the conversion. But yeah, no, we drove it drove it to the stall, and started tearing it apart.
So it came all the way down to the frame and put a Duramax in there.
Yep, we put an LBZ in it.
Put an LBZ in it.
Yep.
Built Allison.
Yep.
Okay, so we got the driveline components done. What else? What else have you worked on with it?
Well, with also doing the LBZ and the DT5 or 750 build, we went ahead and we put a set of 60 over injectors in it. 10 mil pump with our Stealth 67 in the Valley.
Fuck yeah.
So 750, 800 capable.
Yeah.
I mean, all day. I mean,
yeah, it'll be leaning on those injectors, but yeah.
Yeah, it'll be
for sure.
right. So exactly. I mean, we didn't want to give it all the beans, but it is a built motor. We did have a nice donor conversion that we started with, so which is our old shop van, which was a nice conversion or setup for it,
right?
Because that came with the motor and everything. We had our engine builder go ahead and go through it, and he did a beautiful job. Along with that, we went ahead and we started off with doing all the suspension work. So by doing a conversion, putting the motor in it, you have to put a 3-inch body lift in it. With doing the 3-inch body lift, we went ahead and did King shocks on it.
Okay.
So we did a King shock set up with new lower control arms and a Willwood brake system.
It looks nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this week here, I actually got the pleasure of dropping the body back down on the frame because I actually have now that I have the motor mounted, the trans mounted, new transfer case in it and everything, the wiring harness, standalone wiring harness, all like kind of set in place. I was able to drop the body back on.
Now that's a big project. That's one of those that, like, if you do a lot of like cab up Fords and things like that,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, no big deal. I drop bodies and lift bodies every day. It's nothing. But on the 05 H1, it's a big ass unibody. Like, it's a big. The whole thing's just one chunk. So like,
Yeah.
up and down and lining everything up. How many mounting bolts are we talking about? What do you have to line up to get that thing to
There's
sit?
actually only 6 mounting bolts on it.
That feels scary.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem we have on this is that the body sits. If you've ever sat in a Hummer before, you sit in it.
Yeah.
Kind of like an old Corvette, like a '95 Corvette.
Right.
You sit in the car. That's kind of what you do with a Hummer as well, where the body sits around the frame because the frame is actually extremely narrow.
Yeah.
And then the truck is so wide, but the frame is very narrow.
Yeah, it's all body, man. It's
all
literally
body.
it's this cab is so wide. I do feel like you could reach out, like if you and somebody else were sitting shotgun, you could reach out and just barely touch hands.
Right.
Like it is, you are far apart from each other.
Yeah, I mean, so how I want to say it is like when you're actually sitting in the driver's seat, you're actually sitting on the outside of the frame rail. If that tells you,
That's so crazy.
when you're in the driver's seat, the passenger seat, you're on the outside of the frame rail. So you're not on top of them, you're outside of them. So if that tells you anything about dropping the body on how close and how hard it is.
Yeah. Yeah, because you also got the 3-inch body lift to line up at the same time, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Ugh. Okay. How'd you get through it?
So just inch by inch. So dropping the body down, you just have to be very careful. Extra hands is very helpful. And then dropping the body down, you actually have to put one bolt in at a time. So through the actual washer, there's a big huge metal washer, and then through the actual factory body mount.
Yeah.
So there's 3 pieces you actually have to drop the new bolt through. Then you have to do each one at a time because of the way that the body sits.
Well, once you get one lined up, the other 5 are they're already spotted, right?
Yeah,
you just go through and just pop the bolt in.
and then on the actual one on the right front, you actually have to take the mount off of the frame so the body will actually slide down next to the frame.
Oh, Jesus.
And then you have to. So now that piece, you have 5 pieces to try to put together with putting the bolt through.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was fun. And again, today's pro tip: extra hands, man. Just, big thank you to Jaden in the shop for helping me.
Yeah, because it is, right? Because you're down there underneath the truck. The frame is sitting on wheels on the ground,
Right.
and the body is on the lift. Right. So as that lift is coming down, you're like, well, it's not. Listen, guys, like we're joking, but like it is not just going to line up perfect where you
No.
can go through by yourself, drop it down. Okay, it's touching. Get under there and do a bolt. You have to have a second person to do one of
and
these.
then, well, in this case too, is that it's not like we just lifted the body up and the frame stayed there.
Yeah.
So we lifted the body up, did a set of injectors and stuff on it, and then we just lowered it back down and it never moved. The frame didn't move.
Right.
Well, in this case here, I had to rebuild the whole frame. I had to redo all the shocks on it, I had to redo all the lower control arms on it, and then I moved the frame out from underneath of it and put it over in the corner for, a couple weeks so I could actually start doing all the body work.
Right.
Because then I had to, I have to change shifters. I have to, again, a couple weeks we'll get into all this stuff, but there was a lot more than just
lift it up, work on it, and drop it down. What's the
Yeah,
problem?
yeah.
No, it's not. Of course, it's not that simple.
Right. But yeah, it was it's definitely a project, and I'm extremely glad I got the body back on it because that's a huge step.
That's awesome, man. Well, congratulations. I know this has been one for the books for you.
Yeah. I've had the pleasure of building one before, so this is fun, really fun building the second one. So
I love to hear it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today,
no problem.
Jeremy.
Have a good day.
Guys, stick around. We got more Diesel Performance Podcast coming at you right away. Folks, it's time to talk with our remote support expert, Sean Lynn. Sean, how the hell are you?
Great. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking, buddy. Sean, we are going to sit down and discuss today fixing a problem for a customer. And that's that's all of what you do here at Duramax Tuner. Calibrated Power is really being able to help guys who have had an issue or have an issue with a product they've purchased from us, and then they call in, and you're well known for being able to help walk them through that over the phone and try to get to some sort of resolution. So hit me with it, man. What's the truck we're talking about today?
Yeah, so we have a 2018 Cummins on our Easy Link tuning, of course. And the customer is telling us that his truck will randomly have some pretty bad dead pedal, like you put your foot on the pedal and nothing happens.
Oof.
It's very random, and it only happens in the morning for some reason.
Okay. Temperature related?
I guess it's temperature related. I mean, that's the only thing that's different than when you're driving it normally, because it's hotter. I don't know.
Okay. Those are some odd symptoms. That's not a common call that you get, I would assume.
Definitely not, especially when we have a lot of people running very similar tuning on their trucks.
Right. Yeah, because it's an all-stock truck. It's running tunes off of Easy Link, so we have really good visibility over who is running those and how many and yada, yada. All right, man. So the symptom is that it's got a random dead pedal. What were your troubleshooting steps?
So it's really hard to determine what actually causes this without a data log. So the first thing I requested was a data log, which we send over instructions so that you can log the right parameters.
Okay.
And then we took a look at it, because it'll also show you check engine lights and such codes that it's presenting during this log.
Oh, nice. Okay, and that's using Easy Link. So you have your auto agent plugged into the OBD2 port, and then you're kind of running it through the app on your phone.
Yeah, and then I just told them, of course, that we need to see the issue happen in this log. So if it happens first thing in the morning, get the truck started, start the log, and then drive the truck so we can see this actually happen.
That's interesting. What kind of PIDs are you looking at when you review that log?
What we were looking for, first of all, was codes. He gave us one code which indicated a turbo actuator communication loss.
Oof.
And he's got 150-some thousand miles on his truck, and the 6-7 trucks are known for having actuator issues around that time, so that was my first thought.
Right.
We have logged turbo desired and turbo actual vane position, the Cummins fuel control state, which is basically the truck telling you exactly what it's doing based on the running conditions.
Okay.
And we had him log RPM, throttle input, just the basic stuff beyond that.
Right. How'd it look, man? What'd the log look like?
So, looking at the logs, it was commanding a certain vane position, and obviously it didn't know what the actual was because there was some kind of communication issue there.
Sure.
So, based on the information we saw, it looked like there was definitely an actuator issue because the vanes were not moving the way they should be.
Oh, no. It's so common on these, man. And I always feel bad because they're awesome trucks. They have tons of power. They're great to use. But those actuators just seem to go out, you know. And that's a genuine whole set part. That's the best option on the market, is to have a whole set actuator. Any of the other aftermarket actuators I've ever tested, problematic to say the least. Okay. What was the resolution? You just kind of told him, like, hey, we got a bad actuator. Is he looking at a Stealth 64?
Yeah, he definitely wants to do some upgrades down the road for sure. And since he has to pretty much take this apart once, he might as well upgrade everything, right?
That's it, man. Yeah, so many guys run into this where you got a bad actuator. You can replace the actuator. If you could find a whole set actuator, you can replace the actuator. I've seen guys pull the whole turbo out and replace it with a stock turbo. I'm with you. We're here on Diesel Performance Podcast because replacing stuff with stock just doesn't make sense. And now that there is an actual direct bolt-on upgraded Stealth 64 turbo for these trucks, it's kind of a no-brainer, you know, decide where you're going to go with that.
Yeah, depending on where you buy the actuator from, you're probably at least a good chunk of the way there into buying a better turbo.
That's right, and the labor's the same no matter what, right? So if you're paying somebody to do it, or even if you're thinking about paying yourself for your time, yeah, it's a good investment, no question.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, that was a good one, Sean. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Listeners, stick around. We got more Diesel Performance Podcast coming at you in just a moment.
All right, guys, here we are with industry news. Anthony Brunini, how you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm always excited. You're kind of like the gossiper in the company now with all the news and updates. So,
yeah.
What's been going on the last few weeks in the industry?
So last time we talked, we kind of had a warm up to Rudy's event.
Yeah.
Truck Jam coming up. So that had passed. I've seen a lot of pictures, a lot of videos. They got the show and shine. They got the racing, of course, everyone's in for. And then Levon also posted kind of just a vlog of the whole event.
Right.
I mean, from what I've seen, it looked like a lot of fun.
Okay. That was about 3 weeks ago now, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been straggling with this part of the episode. So, since then, what else is kind of shaped up?
So a couple other things, just small stuffs I've seen here and there. Farm Truck and Asian from Street Outlaws. They've got the farm truck that they're known for. They've got like a little prison bus. It's all decked out.
Yeah.
It looks cool. They visited the guys over at Wagler, and they had, friends, family, kids like that. Just took a ride around the prison bus, and they hung out to the park for, I believe, either a few hours or for the day.
It's hard to not like those guys.
I know they
do stuff like that.
They love what they're doing, and they're having fun.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Couple other things. One of my personal dealers, D-Max, store out of California, they had something along the line similar to the Truck Jam. It's not as big.
Okay.
They have their own event out in California, dirt drag, sled pull, show and shine.
Super
I think
slick.
they had a burnout contest too.
Okay.
So I saw a lot of pictures from them. I talked to the guys over there. They had a blast. It's California. It's great weather. Can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
The shop foreman, Eric Miller, he's got a 15 LML with our EasyLink tuning.
So it's emissions equipped.
Yeah,
right?
emissions equipped.
Okay.
Truck's fully emissions on. He's got some other modifications. They all have EO numbers, which is awesome. Glad to be a part of that with those guys. He placed first. Or he did first place in the exhibition class.
It's an emissions on truck. He was probably the only one in that class.
There was like 10, 15 trucks in that class.
No, I'm just joking. One of the cool things that I think about this industry is a lot of vendors, they come up with newsletters every so often in basically new parts that are coming into the market. Whirly Custom Fab, right? They
Yes.
just came up with their updated newsletter with their new Duramax manifolds.
Yes, for the L5P. Those have been long awaited.
Yeah, so little background, guys. Whirly, WC Fab, they offer a one-piece cast manifold. It's basically the old Steed Speed manifold, right, that they were able to get their hands on, and they're manufacturing now. They came up with an agreement there. And they're a real slick piece.
Yeah.
Like, they are definitely impressive. So I can't wait personally to see those on some trucks.
Yeah, those are going to look good and just perform awesome as well.
Absolutely.
Other than that, we had our All Truck Challenge, I think, because you did a lot of the interviewing.
We did some of the interviewing, All Truck Challenge. We had 2 trucks out there.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, it was from the interviewees that we've had. We have Chris Patterson, 3,000 horsepower officially on a chassis dyno.
Nuts.
Our friend Josh McCormack took first place. It was awesome to see that truck stay in one piece for the whole event, and well deserved to both those guys. Even though Chris Patterson didn't take first, I think he was he stole the show, with that 3,000 horsepower. So it's nice to see, those fall events kind of shape up and just really do some really crazy stuff, and set what that next bar is going into spring for 2022.
It seems like every time, too, when you go to these events or you hear, like, even at UCC, someone breaks down, like, the other guys in the event they're competing against, they're helping each other.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's a close-knit family of all those guys that do compete. And, we talk to so many guys on the show that have such cool builds and that do compete at such a high level. And it's never just one person, right? Just the person driving the truck or a specific vehicle is owned by X person. It's not just that person that makes that possible.
Exactly.
So, you see it's a lot of collaborative efforts. Start with wah, 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 like that because he won.